Busy campaign season. The F-150 campaign tour is going to kick off on Thursday, Kelton. I think we have it to where it's not going to be like it's going to be like legit with no technical issues, right?
Yes, correct.
Well, we'll see about that. To bring in our pre F-150 campaign tour kickoff, I'm going to bring in a guy that knows everything about politics. Got way back in the Missouri Republican Party. There is not a Republican this dude that can't text. Jim Gwinner, welcome into this week of Missouri Politics Midweek Update.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here.
First things first, the folks looking over your left shoulder, show folks what that is. What do you got there?
So I've got a 2010 vintage Daniel Green for Circuit Judge, Cole County yard sign. I worked on that campaign, or helped on his campaign when he ran in both primary and the general, and that was against Paul Wilson in the general.
How many people can say they've beat a Supreme Court judge?
Well, if we lost, he might have stayed circuit judge, but after we beat him, then former Governor Nixon appointed him to the circuit. And a little side note, 6 months later, I helped Cotton Walker take the open seat for city judge and took out Paul's brother.
Man, the Wilson family must have this like a vendetta against you.
I hope not, but I'm not on the Christmas card list.
I'll talk about vintage with you. Check this out. This is a Jim Talent, not for Senate hat. This is a Jim Talent for governor hat. How about that? That's back in the day. This could have been on the head of one Rich Crismer at some point.
We still had the Rams in St. Louis back then, if I recall.
I think that's right. So you just went to Israel. What the hell's wrong with you? Did you read that there's a war there?
Yeah, and so I've been involved with a number of efforts to help promote the U.S.-Israeli relationship. I was part of a group of about 8 leaders from around the country. So there's state party chairman from another state, there's lobbyists from another state, there's consultants that do what I do. We were part of a trip that was part of an education trip on behalf of the American Israel Education Foundation. So we went over the Sunday, we flew out the Saturday night before Memorial Weekend and got there on Sunday.
Just to be clear, you do have the internet. Yeah. You do realize there's a war there, right?
I do realize
when you
that.
got on the plane, you were knowing this plane is going to a war zone, right?
I do.
How do you get into Israel right now? Is it? What was your trip like? Did you have a connector? What was that like?
Yeah, well, Lambert doesn't have a whole lot of international flights outside of Canada and Frankfurt. So I flew to Newark, and then picked an El Al flight up and went direct to Tel Aviv, Ben Gurion Airport, where I met the rest of the group that was going to be there. And
how long does that take?
It was about an 11-hour flight.
Man,
it was a long flight, but it was a quick flight. It was an overnight flight, so I was able to sleep on the plane. We got there mid-afternoon on Sunday. Everybody was coming in on different flights. We had a couple of folks flew out of JFK. I flew out of Newark. A couple people flew out of Miami. A couple folks flew out of LA. That was the long flight. Theirs was about a 14-hour flight from LA to Tel Aviv. I believe everybody took El Al because that's one of the only carriers going in and out of Tel Aviv Airport. And, Israel's a small country.
I would assume that there's some of your standard major airlines are like, look, we just don't want to mess with that right now, right?
Yeah. In fact, last week after I came back, Sunday morning of Memorial Weekend, I saw a story in the Times of Israel where I think there were about 40 orphans from the October 7th massacre, children who had one or both remaining parents murdered by Hamas terrorists. They were supposed to go, I believe, on Iberian Airlines to Mexico City to decompress, get some help that they need, had their caregivers with them. I believe that flight was canceled by Iberian Airlines, so they're trying to find opportunities for them to get away and decompress right now.
So break down for me. Mm-hmm. For folks that live under a rock and apparently like yourself didn't know there was a war there when you went there on purpose. Yeah. October 7th, walk me through this, right? I tried to interview people on both sides of this when that first happened. It's just the passion is so hot.
Yeah.
It really just feels like neither side can see where the other side's even coming from. It's almost like they're Senate Republicans. You know what I mean? It's just I don't think either side.
Yeah.
I think to do a negotiation, an effective one, you almost have to be able to argue it from the other point backwards. I mean, that's where I remember Chris Koster and Victor Callahan did that once. They took a bill, they argued for an hour one side, then they switched sides and argued another hour. I don't think that Israel and the Arabs can do that. But I think everybody knows there was an awful, awful terrorist attack, brutal murderers and hostage taking, and every despicable act that if you started ranking the worst things human beings could do, Hamas checked every box that day. I feel no sympathy for the people that voted for Hamas on the promise they would kill Jews. Then they killed Jews. And then the Jews said, well, you messed up, son. And I don't feel sorry for those folks. They got the government they wanted.
They do. So, just a quick recap. Everybody knows, October 7th was, and listening to the Israeli people, they equate it to their 9/11. But if you put it in context with their population size, that would make 9/11 over 30,000 murdered. So you put this in context. This was a horrendous act by a terrorist organization, Hamas, down in the Gaza Strip, which is in the south, the west side. It's on the Mediterranean and the Egyptian borders. And it's on the southern part of Israel. Multiple thousands, 3,000 plus Hamas terrorists breached the border, came into Israel. They crossed the border. They attacked cities. They attacked innocent civilians. They attacked military installations. They killed, I believe it was over 1,200 innocent Israelis. They've taken over 200 to 300 hostages. There's still 125, I believe, hostages, including 6 Americans that are still kept hostage.
See, I don't get that. I mean, I don't understand the issue. To me, back in the day, if you were a Roman citizen, people knew not to mess with you.
Right.
You'd like to think that's the case for America, but you see Haiti, we're not going to do anything to Haiti. They murdered Representative Ben Baker's daughter and son-in-law. We're not going to do anything. They knew that.
Right.
They knew we would do nothing. We'll do nothing. We'll do nothing about those folks that have kidnapped Americans. We'll probably still feel sorry for them, and folks at goofball liberal institutions will still protest for them. Let me argue from the back way, though. Okay? So Israel took this ground. It's been taken many times throughout history, according to the Bible, according to history books. Israel fought a war, took this ground over, took it from Palestinians, from Arabs, however you want to. I'm not a big. I don't know all the nomenclature. They're pissed. Similar to how, in the history of America, we declared war and took a lot of land from Mexico. They seem to have gotten over it. Maybe not, but there's not an active war, I should say. Do you see the point of some of these Palestinians when they say, you took our land because you're more powerful, now you continue to encroach these settlements? Being over there, can you see why the Palestinians are so pissed off?
We met with Palestinians while we were there. We met with a variety of groups throughout the week. Andrew Ashford from AIPAC, who was our staff person guiding us through the trip. Andrew and the team over there, Yoni Levitan, who was over there, he's over there, full-time staffer over there. The trip that we were on gave me a lot of insight into, one, the formation of Israel, the history of the Jewish people, the 67 war, the 73 war, the intifadas.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, so this was, we had the opportunity to go see Christian holy sites, Jewish holy sites. We saw, Muslim things. It was a very broad education while I was there. For peace to come there, if Hamas were to throw down their weapons, surrender, release the hostages, and walk out of Gaza, then the Jewish people, the Israeli people, they've coexisted for decades with the Druze people. There's 150 Druze, the community there. They worked very closely. We met countless Arabs. We met Bedouins throughout the week. So I think to say, that they're encroaching, they're fighting for survival. They're fighting a war with Gaza right now against Hamas. They're constantly on alert against Hezbollah up north, and they still have the concerns that would come from Syria on their eastern border. They're surrounded on three sides by enemies who want nothing more than to destroy Israel.
Jim. That's an interesting trip, and kudos to AIPAC for setting up some meetings with that's it. The history of it to me is so interesting. The parts about how you go in and talk to Palestinians. Boy, that sounds like a very interesting trip. I didn't know they did all that. Kudos to AIPAC. That's interesting.
Yeah, part of the trip was, very immersive in understanding the history of the Jewish people, the formation of Israel. But then we met with, leaders of their Knesset, which is their governing body. Bibi Netanyahu is the prime minister. We met with, a member from the coalition party, which would be their majority party, and we met with a member of the Knesset from the opposition. So think conservative, liberal, or those in power, those out of power. To a person there, they want to defeat terrorism. They want to defeat Hamas. They want to live in peace. They want to live in peace with their neighbors. They would like nothing better than to have trading partners throughout the region.
Okay, take me back there. I mean, it does appear as though history is leaning towards some of the Arab countries. They're not happy that Israel's there, but they've accepted it to some extent. Saudi Arabia seemed like they were on the cusp of accepting Israel is going to be there, and you're not going to get rid of them. However, the Palestinians do not. Now, there's two things. One, it doesn't really appear as though the other Arab states want to make Gaza nice. They kind of nobody says Gaza is a nice place to be before this, certainly not now. But some of that investment, I mean, these are very wealthy countries. You would think they'd put a little bit of their money where their mouth is and make some of these cities nicer than they are now. They don't. But I do see. I mean, I understand if you're Palestinian and you feel like you don't control your airspace, you don't control your water, your electric. You can understand why. I agree. If all the other counties in southern that to Butler County, we'd be pissed off. I mean, can you going on the trip? Can you see some of the other side and why they're so pissed?
Well, I do see the frustration, but part of those opportunities come from the government that they selected. The Gaza people chose to have Hamas as their government.
Yeah.
In the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority has more of a.
We chose to pay higher gas prices 4 years ago, and we pay higher gas prices now. We chose it. I have no sympathy for Kelton complaining about gas prices when he probably voted for Biden. Did you, Kelton? Oh, wait, Jim. Innovative move. Let me introduce you to the Kelton Cam. Kelton, did you vote for Biden?
I did not vote in that election.
Would you have voted for Biden? You were in college at Mizzou.
I am politically asymmetrical.
Put the Kelton Cam back on. No, you don't get to take it past. Jim's on camera. You got to be on camera too. Would you have voted for Biden?
I don't think so.
You would have. That's a hard. Now, Kelton, that's a hard yes. Though on the first Kelton Cam, we're not going to be bullshitting people. You would have voted for? You were in college at Mizzou. You have a beard. You would have voted for Biden. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong. My degree in political science has kept me pretty.
Oh God, political science. You definitely were going to vote for Biden. You would have voted for Trump.
No, I wouldn't have.
See, I knew that. My white trash into my Steinem knowledge. By the way, I got to stop by ABC 30 and pick up some Steins. Thank you all for sending this. Chad in St. Louis, appreciate you, sir. My Steinem knowledge tells me Kelton definitely was not voting for Trump. He's going to vote for Biden. But I don't know the details. I'm fascinated to go on a trip like that you went on. I'm jealous of you for getting to do that. But I do, it does seem to me that I get why there's, I understand it's not, no dispute is 100% Israel's right. In my view, after October 7th, I have no sympathy for you when you vote for people, just like I have no sympathy for us as Americans. We voted for a worse economy. We voted for higher gas prices. We voted for some hippie in Bergenstocks to be happy and us to pay higher taxes and higher gas prices. That's what we voted for. And we got it.
Yeah.
Good for us. I don't have sympathy when you vote for Hamas, but I do understand if you live in Ramallah right now, you're pissed off. and you've got some grievance. What are the Israelis? What do they come when you talk to these members of this Knesset? What are they willing to offer to make them happy?
Well, I think the first thing, again, it's a complex problem, so it's not one simple
the most complex
thing.
in the history of the world, right?
Right. And if you look even at the two-state solution, so we did, the history. We did, what would a two-state solution look like? So you're not talking about just the Gaza corridor. You look at the different areas, and they've labeled them A, B, and C throughout the country. So there's the West Bank, and that's basically east of Jerusalem, if I'm getting my geography correct.
Bethlehem, Ramallah, all that.
Right. Well, no, Ramallah's down in Gaza. So the fighting is going on down in Rafah. Sorry, my excuse. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, my bad. But the fighting's all going down in Gaza. West Bank is largely peaceful, but there are pockets of.
But they're pissed off, right? The Palestinians there are pissed off.
I think the country is frustrated. The Israeli people want to live in peace. They want to live without fear of terrorists coming in and annihilating them, and they want Hamas to surrender. They want the hostages returned. And I think,
what if they built a wall?
That's going to happen.
What if they just built a big wall to separate them? I'm a fan of walls. Mm-hmm. I don't see how walls hurt anything.
Well, that's what they breached, and that's what they came over on October 7th. And they incurred. The incursion was multiple miles. I met
the Israelis. Are they down on Netanyahu for letting his guard down? Obviously, the Israelis, just like on 9/11, we pointed fingers at George Bush. Said, "Hey, buddy, you were the president. The buck stops here. You screwed up. You got lax. Israel got lax, right?"
I think there's a frustration. There's certainly frustration with the government, with Netanyahu, by a sector, but there's frustration with military intelligence. There's frustration with everything from top to bottom that this was able to happen. A lot of folks. Did you feel
safe, Jim? Did you feel safe where you were?
I did. So we spent 2 days in Jerusalem, 2 days in Tel Aviv. We went up north to the Sea of Galilee. So one day we went down to a couple of areas, and I want to kind of talk about this for a moment.
You didn't see any whales, did you?
Any what?
Whales in the Sea of Galilee.
Didn't see any whales, and nothing in the Dead Sea either. So we went down towards Gaza. We went down to a city called Sderot. That's about 2 miles from the Gaza border. That day, the 100+ Palestinian terrorists came into Sderot. They killed almost 80 innocent civilians in the town of Sderot. They occupied the police station. They had to bomb the police station. We saw the leveled parking lot. We went to the Nova Music Festival site to see the memorial there, where I'm going to blank on the number, but close to 150+ innocent kids were murdered at that music festival, and countless hostages taken. So, as a father of a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, that really hit home to me, seeing these memorials, seeing the stories about one young lady whose name is Agam Berger. We actually were in the West Bank at an at a Jewish settlement, learning about the different pockets of populations of Palestinians in the West Bank. And the aunt of Agam Berger came in. She's been held for 33 days now, kidnapped on October 7th. And her family wants her back. She's a 19-year-old kid. She's a violinist. She was getting ready to move on to the next phase in her life. But there's countless stories. There's more than 120 stories like that right now of innocent folks. We met with Israeli soldiers who defended that day. We met with one soldier who was ordered to go north up towards Lebanon. They use WhatsApp and those platforms a lot in Israel to communicate. And his phone was blowing up with notes from friends and colleagues about all the action going on in Gaza. Decided on his own to disobey his order to go north. Turned and went south. Saved dozens and countless of lives defending a kibbutz. Tells a story about how 5 minutes prior he picks up body armor off a dead Israeli soldier, puts it on. 5 minutes later he's shot in the chest, but managed to save dozens of people. And just the heroic stories of those. And again, these are not only the Jewish people in the Israeli army. The Druze population joins and serves in the military army. But just the strength and the resilience of the Jewish people it's an amazing story. It's one I'm never going to forget.
So let's talk a little politics here in Missouri now.
Yeah.
Hey, tell you, if other people that are watching this are interested in going on one of these trips, can they message you and you can maybe help them into
Sure.
the funnel of how to pursue doing that? And I think that's a fascinating trip.
Love
And
to. And I want
and
to say it's a bipartisan organization. We're trying to educate all Americans.
I don't think the issue is still bipartisan. Do you? I mean, honestly, I think. Let me ask you last question.
Yeah.
Why should Americans give a damn what happens in Israel?
Well, Israel, for one, is the only democracy in that part of the country. Now, yes, you can go over to Greece, you can go over to Italy, but on that side of the Mediterranean, it's virtually the only democracy.
Why do we care? Why do we care if they're a democracy or not?
Well, strategically, they're a large trading partner of the United States. 255,000 plus American jobs are supported between the U.S.-Israeli relationship. There are, excuse me, besides the strategic and the business, Israel has been an ally of ours in both national security. So
but I mean, what does Israel do for our national security? Our national security is far more threatened by being allies with Israel because their enemies are terrorists than it's bolstered, right?
Well, no, you look at things like the Iron Dome and the technology that they have, the tank anti-defense technology, the armor plating that the U.S. tanks are now using, developed in Israel, that are protecting American lives. In Iraq and Afghanistan, while we were there, it's a vital partnership. What we get from Israel is a trading partner. We get intelligence. We get national security. It's a mutual best interest. And to your question of why, to a person, the Israeli people want to live in peace. Yes, there's always going to be frustration with the government. The big question is what happens the day after this war ends. How do they move forward, and how do they live in peace? And that starts with Hamas by surrendering and releasing the hostages immediately.
Well, cool. Let's talk about governor's race here in Missouri.
Okay.
The big one. I don't think the Senate race is interesting enough to talk about. So we'll talk about governor's race. You got Ashcroft, Kehoe, Eigel. How do you see it?
Mm-hmm. Well, looking at the money, Kehoe's got a lot of money in the bank right now. And Ashcroft comes from that pedigree. I saw his father's op-ed in your wonderful publication.
Did you see the video his dad did? I thought the video was good.
I didn't. I got back Sunday. I've not seen the video yet. I will look at it. But
the video, it reminds you of being an old Republican staffer in the back of the room. And John Ashcroft gives the speech. And I was a Kid Bond guy. But still, when Ashcroft would go to give that talk at the end and tell the story, I never really cared for him singing the song. I'll be honest with you. The song was never my cup of tea. Right. But when he would tell that final story and he'd get that gravelly voice, I don't want to ever offend the voice of God. It's not a comparison. But there's an element of a Jack Buck gravelly voice to John Ashcroft. And when he tells that final story and he's, bringing it in, it reminded me of that, but it's the whole Ashcroft campaign problem wrapped up in a bow, I think. John Ashcroft was delivering it, not Jay. Mm-hmm. John Ashcroft delivered it excellently, but it was 1:15. And right. Jim, as you know, that is not cut to be broadcast. That is a YouTube clip, which if you watch a John Ashcroft YouTube clip, you know who you're voting for.
Oh, exactly. It's interesting because obviously, Ashcroft is one of those iconic political names in the state of Missouri.
Like he still got it. When you watch that video, Jim, you're going to think the guy still got it.
It's like the Kit Bond name or the Blunt name or the Carnahan.
I would put Bond ahead, but yes.
Yeah, but these are iconic names, and there's a level of there's a strong level of name ID that Jay Ashcroft is going to get because of that name and his success that he's had as Secretary of State. Kehoe's got money. Kehoe is coming at it from, in my opinion, that economic development, bring jobs to Missouri, that Chamber of Commerce, associated industries.
This is something my buddy Howard Parks sent me. This is an old Kit Bond poster. Because keep in mind, when he ran in 72, he's running against the vestige of the Pendergast machine. Will Missouri's governor be man or machine? Kid Bond is the man. Look at that old Kid Bond stuff. I mean, I'm totally to me, it kind of comes down like I think Ashcroft caught a break last night I saw a Post-Dispatch story where a very prominent professional Democrat lawyer, Jane Duger, former chief of staff to Governor Holden, filed an ethics complaint against him. And it was, if you're Jay Ashcroft, and Donald Trump's literally waiting for the verdict in whatever screwball thing the liberals have trying him on today. I was about done with Trump. Where were you at? Then they started arresting him all the time, and I'm like, it's bullshit. I was kind of getting tired of Trump, and then they pulled that, and I'm like, you know what? That's bullshit. I like my man again. I remember why I liked Trump. He would call this bullshit even if it wasn't him, and it is bullshit. So he's sitting there waiting to get, and then we both know every campaign has ethics complaints filed against it, and nobody really cares. And it's I actually believe Jane wouldn't have signed her name to it if she didn't find it as a valid situation. We both know the ethics commission does a good job, but their hands are tied every day by the politicians to make sure they don't find anything wrong with them. I've never seen an ethics complaint really matter. Maybe this will be the first one. I doubt it. But if you're Jay, does he have the political acumen to say, yes, the Democrats are fighting me just like Trump? I mean, do you think he's got that kind of game?
I do. He's, at that level, everybody surrounds themselves with, expert political consultants that know how to utilize those opportunities.
Yep. He's got a couple good ones. Jason Cable Rose, a guy I didn't meet until now. That dude's good. He's a talented guy. Elijah Haar, talented guy. My old roommate, getting married Friday. I'm going to go down for the wedding. I give Casey the credit for me going there. I can, but I'm going to. He's getting married. If I was Elijah, I'd move that up and marry her now. I mean, you don't want to wait till the weekend if you're him. You want to get that paperwork done, son.
Yeah.
Joelle's a wonderful woman, outkicking his coverage by a mile, almost by as far as I do. But I'm with you. I've seen Jay get better on the stump. I just haven't seen the money, Jim. I mean, when you have that big a lead in the governor's race, you should have more money.
Well, and remember, this is the primary we're talking about, so that Ashcroft name ID is going to carry a lot. That money that Kehoe.
It's the reason he has the lead, right?
Yeah. But Kehoe's got the money right now, and he's going to be able to get his name ID out. But he's going to have to do that to Republicans. I mean, there's a faction. There's the Bill Eigel contingent that aren't going to sway for either of them, and I believe those are probably pulling votes from Jay Ashcroft more than Kehoe.
Well, I mean, Eigel. While you've been gone, Kehoe's been up in for the Springfield TV market, which I would have thought would have been just Ashcroft rock solid votes. The lead's gone. It's virtually tied in Springfield. I saw some polling in the 33rd, which kind of has Branson and West Plains, I think, now gets their news out of Springfield also. That race is very close with Kehoe with a marginal lead, and that's with Katie Ashcroft is carrying Howell County 2-1. I think that you're right. Eigel is the best on the stump. He's the best on the interview. His message of everybody, I'm the only honest person in government. Everyone else sucks but me. Burn it all down. I'll cut all your taxes and I'll give you more free stuff. That's the message people want to hear. He just didn't have the money to get it out. But the more money he does have to get it out, I feel like he's that voter is not necessarily an Ashcroft voter, but I think they would have been an Ashcroft voter if Bill didn't come sweep them off their feet.
Yeah, I mean, all three have very positive traits that you could like about it. I mean, at the end of the day, as a Republican, I'm going to be very happy with whoever wins the primary. But I think, Kehoe's got the money to get his name out there, to get his message out there, and to turn out his voters. And then Ashcroft, obviously, with the number 2 money. But Eigel's
so Jim, give me this. I'll give you the real question here. If I'm Jay, I love having a message I can tout for a week because essentially he's treading water and hoping he can keep his lead until he can get up on TV. And right now with his money, I don't see how he's up on TV after the 4th, maybe the week after the 4th. No. Now, maybe he brings in more outside money. I mean, it's hard to track some of these things because the bizarro rules the reformers have done to make things far less transparent. But, to me, I think Jay is looking at a month of having to tread water. Yeah. And that's pretty dicey game right there. But so you bring that around. I don't know if you could smoke and mirrors a month with Kehoe having legit money to be up. And Eigel, I mean, everywhere Eigel goes, I feel like he's pulling 3 Ashcrofts for every Kehoe. And he needs less. But at the end of the day, what obviously Kehoe needs much more money than Ashcroft because his dad wasn't the United States Attorney General and Jay's was. What is the factor? Is it 2-1? Is it 3-1? Is it 4-1?
In the money game, I think he needs to keep at least that 3-1 money game, just
That
because
feels right.
he's got to educate, he's got to turn out.
Now, Jim, is that 3-1 over Eigel, Ashcroft combined, or 3-1 over just Ashcroft?
I think 3-1 over Ashcroft. I think Eigel's going to be a factor, but I think he pulls votes from Ashcroft, not.
What if Eigel got $1 million contribution today? I think Eigel's right there in this race.
I do, but he's got to get that $1 million contribution, and then he's got to get on TV, and then he's got to be visible. I mean,
if I got $1 million contribution, I'd be interviewing Paul Goldschmidt right now, right? I mean, so it's well as deals where I agree. So let's Lieutenant Governor's race. I saw so Huff put a 3/4 while you've been in Israel, while you've been over at the war zone. Lincoln Huff put $750,000 down on a TV buy. Wassinger put $1.5 million into his campaign, but I'll asterisk that. In 2018, I know David Wassinger. I like David Wassinger.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
In 2018, he came in. I thought he'd be the guy. I mean, I really thought David Wassinger would be running for governor right now, if you want the truth. He put 500-ish in, and David Wassinger has the money to put in. It's not a question of, but I don't care how rich you are. $500,000, $500,000. I don't care how rich you are, unless you're, Scrooge McDuck rich. I don't think that the $500,000 is money you write out of your own bank account normally on a lark that you might not get back. And if you're state auditor, you're not going to raise that back because you're going to run for governor and it's gone. If you put $500,000 in for a state senate race, yeah, you'll raise that money back, but not state auditor. He didn't spend the money and he got embarrassed. I think there's an element of David that was embarrassed. Maybe he didn't think Sandra was the best person to beat him, right? So he put $1.5 million in, but we've seen this so many times. They put it in, they don't spend it. Do you trust his $1.5 million until you see he's wired it to a company to buy TV ads? I kind of don't.
I mean, no, you have to spend that. Lincoln has the luxury of the name ID in the Republican circles. David, yes, he ran statewide, and he's well known in St. Louis business circles.
And his wife, wonderful lady.
And his wife, right, former county councilwoman. But he's got to build that name ID in the Kansas City Republican voters and take some inroads down into Springfield. Lincoln's gonna do very well in Greene County, and he's probably going to try and encroach up into Kansas City and make some headroads. I think David's got a path, but he's definitely going to have to use that money to build a name ID across the state. Where he doesn't have that, which is primarily
to cut loose of that check.
Yeah.
And Holly Rader, probably the best pure politician. But if you're a donor and you're strategizing out your giving, see Lincoln's on his way to $4 million. Wassinger is going to he'll be around 2 now, I would assume, with that 1.5. She's under $500,000. You got to cut. It's a tough call, right? It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to pull that check when the fundraising disparities. However, she's the woman in the race, and she's from South Israel. And now we all vote the Republican primary. Trump cleaned out any Democrat left in the boot hill. And to me, I go back to the talent. She's very talented. I mean,
very talented.
She can make moves in this race.
Senators in the Senate. Yeah.
All right, and then Porter, St. Louis business guy. If I'm Wassinger, I don't want another St. Louis business guy in. But, I think we're going to see it's really hard to run statewide at first. That's a big bite to take off. We'll see what he does. I just don't know the guy that well. But prediction, Lieutenant Governor, who's going to be who's winning? Who's the favorite?
If I was going to say today, and you mentioning that Lincoln's on his way to $4 million, today I would say Lincoln Huff, but I think Wassinger definitely has a path. If he spends that money, builds his name ID, and makes the inroads. And
maybe because I know her, I still think Holly has a path. But yes, Lincoln's a front runner.
It's a harder path with less money, but I think she has a path, and she's
Attorney General's race. East Coast versus Missouri. It's Harvard versus a war hero, but it's also Trump's lawyer versus Missouri's lawyer. Scharf is extremely smart. His dad has more money than you could ever imagine to have in this world. Bailey, war hero, legitimate war hero, the sitting attorney general. He has sued everybody the right-wingers would want him to sue. I feel like this race could go either way. It obviously starts off with the incumbent attorney general having an advantage, but I think you probably have a window into just how much money Scharf will have from his family to pour into this.
And I'm trying to remember what did he have, about 800,000 on hand at the last.
Yeah, but I mean, the way they'll do this, they'll hold it back to June 15th. They'll be spending $1 million a week.
Yeah.
And it'll be they'll run it through some club for growth. Some foreigners will come in. I mean, it is a totally foreign-based campaign, but Missourians have never held that against anybody.
No. And, if his polling and his team see that there's a path, I think they'll spend the money. And right now, I mean, I think they're slugging it out.
I think Jeff Rowe's bank account's hugging him that he took the side he took in this race. Give me a prediction. Can the Missourians hold off the foreigners? It's almost like our own Alamo.
This is one of those races I think I'd almost flip a coin on today. But we're
give me the favorite. You taking the Missouri and you taking the foreigners?
I've got to go with the incumbent in a toss-up.
Yeah, I think it's close. Treasures race, interesting. I like Vivek Malik. I think Cody Smith's a good man. I think Andrew Caney's a good man. So Lori Rook, a friend of Sarah Steelman's from Spring, she's the Southwest Missouri personal, so he kind of hurts Cody. She's the woman. Vivek Malik is raising a ton of money. He's a nice guy. I don't know what the case is to bump him. Your charter school people owe both these guys. If I had to guess, they're going to place their bet on Cody, would be my thought. End of the day, who wins this race?
I still go with the incumbent having the advantage. He's got the money. He hasn't. I mean, I've not seen him up on TV again. I got back Sunday morning. But I think
Kelton, I got a mail piece from Vivek Malik that said Missouri, quoted the Missouri Times, and I'm very vain, and I like that. But he sent out two big, slick, glossy mail pieces. So let me just ask you the brass tacks. He's got to have more money than the other two white guys, right? Mm-hmm. The dark arts will come into play here, no question. Right. It's tough. One, does anybody even know there is a state treasurer? I don't think anybody does. Two, it's hard to do dark arts on a race no one cares about. And no one could care less about anything in this world than who the state treasurer is. I think they're going to attack Vivek. He's got a darker shade of pigmentation than the other two guys. They'll use it against him. He's got a different maybe dietary plan than the other guys. But the fact is, I wonder if you can get any. I think you can use those dark arts, no question. That's just reality. But what if nobody cares? I think Vivek Malik could buy this race.
Yeah, I mean, I think if nobody cares about the race, the tie goes to the incumbent.
I think you're right.
And he's got the money to be out there. I mean, you have to have a compelling reason to turn out the incumbent in most cases. Yep. And I haven't seen that there's a compelling reason. So I think at the end of the day, Republicans going to the primary, voting for the Republican is going to vote for the incumbent.
Secretary of State's race, so many people are running. You got any kinfolks in that?
I want to say my second cousin, twice removed, up in Marion County, might have filed, but I'd have to check the last.
Okay, I think Valentina Gomez is funny. I don't know that everybody is looking for a new way to campaign, innovating. You gotta have some money. I don't know that she has any. She's very confident, which I like, and I think she's humorous. I look forward to see what she does in her career. I somehow don't think it's going to be at the Secretary of State's office. Hoskins has he has a path. He's got a great situation. Keep in mind the number of votes you need is lower. I think that helps Denny. If you're an Eigel person, you're very informed. I think you could float behind Bill Eigel and your Senate district, spend your money targetedly, and Denny could win. Shane is the best dude in the world. If you know
one of the
Shane,
most qualified in the field. Yeah.
Oh, the most qualified. I don't even think that's a question. Shane's been doing the work. I think Shane could be wrapping up his 8th year as governor right now if Todd Aiken wasn't a weirdo. But at the end of the day, he's at a floor of votes. If you've ever been to a chicken dinner for the Republicans in Southwest Missouri, you've met Shane and you respect him and you like him. I don't think that gets you the Secretary of State's office unless there's an 8-way field, and the number it takes to win that primary gets around 20%. I think Shane's right there. Mary Elizabeth Coleman, I think, is probably the most. Yeah, probably the most talented politician. Not she is the most talented politician in the field.
Right.
I think she's just now turning that on, and I wonder if 80 days is enough. Right? Is 70 days or whatever we are out enough? I'm not sure of that. But I do think that she has the ability. She has the highest ceiling in the race. I think, no question.
Right.
Adam Schwadron, good dude. He banked $100 grand. You're gonna have to bank more, right? It's time for that second $100 grand to show up. Gonna have to keep putting that together. But tell me, how's Dean Plocker not the favorite right now? I mean, he's got the most money, name ID. Now his message 8 months ago was, I agree with everybody else about everything, and I've got a better haircut than the other white guys I agree with. Now you can say I'm a fighter. I've seen the deep state. I fought it and I beat it 7-2. I think, until somebody shows me different, the guy with more money than the whole field combined times 3 with a message. I saw him out. I saw Rod Jetton's handiwork when he was out touring the state. He did an old-fashioned tour. He actually went and met people in Missouri. Holy shit. It's a throwback. He should have had to wear a throwback jersey, Kelton. I mean, holy cow. He actually went and met Missourians when he's running for governor or secretary of state of Missouri. It's totally crazy. He went and did that. I thought the tour came off looking very good. Tell me why he's not the favorite. Convince me he's not.
Well, I think you look at, he's had a lot of arrows shot his way over the last 6 months, 8 months, for a lot of reasons. But I've known Dean since his very first race for State House 8 years ago. I think it might have even been a couple of years before that I met him and his family. They're wonderful. He's very capable. He's very committed to the state of Missouri, and he's got the money. And I think
that's it. It comes
wisely.
Out of the money, right?
Right. I think he'll use it wisely. I think if Mary Elizabeth Coleman, who I want to point out is a very strong supporter of the U.S.-Israeli relationship, if she can raise that money, or when she raises that money and she engages, I would never count Mary Elizabeth Coleman out of any campaign that she's running.
She has the highest ceiling and the most talent. I just haven't seen a lot of that talent applied to this race yet.
Right.
I understand that's happening this week. If she decides this is what I'm going to dedicate my every waking minute for the next 70-some days to, I wouldn't want to run against her. But if I was running against her, I'd want to have $1.5 million at the bank already. I don't think anybody cares about anything to do with your.
Right.
I think all the noise of the swamp stuff. Trump has changed the world, right? Dean Plocker would have been sunk in a pre-Trump era. Now, and this is to Trump's credit. When you've got some when you've got a staff revolt and they're basically trying to ice you into quitting, you can push back now, when you used to couldn't. So good for Dean. Good for we'll just say good for America. We'll see. I think she's gonna have to raise money though. Without that, I think you're looking at some other folks trying to angle on. Now, give me the build up here, Jim. Last question. Governor's race prediction. Who's the favorite today and who's going to win?
I think it's tied between Ashcroft and Kehoe today. I think Kehoe pulls it out in a strong 3-way race where Eigel's going to outperform what you expect. And I think.
What do you expect? I'm expecting Bill to be at 15-20 right now without that big 7-figure donor.
Right. So you say, let's say it's 20, leaving 80. I think of that final 80%, Kehoe comes in at about 45% and 35 with Jay is my prediction today.
I would put Bill without anything changing at 20, but I predict he'll overperform that. And look, it's I guess you could say for every politician we've discussed, if you get that 7-figure check, your ceiling goes up exponentially. I think Bill's goes up more than most because he's just talented and he has the message folks want to hear. But I think he's got to get that check. Without that check, I think he overperforms 20. But with that check, he's a real factor to win it. And I guess that could be said for everybody. If Jay gets that check, this race fundamentally. I think I'm kind of vibing with you on that 3-1 advantage, which Kehoe has more than 3-1 now. And I think, when you talk about Ashcroft's fundraising, I did Mundo this morning. We got to, it's like sometimes when you get beat on the ball field, you tip your hat to the opposing pitcher and say the guy had a good game. I think you tip your hat a little bit to Kehoe and say, well, he's locked up a lot of donors. He's an impressive guy.
No, I do. I think
Jim Gwinner, thank you.
Be fun to watch.
And do you mind if folks want to go on one of these trips? I've heard these trips are fantastic.
Yeah.
Now some of us don't want to go to a war zone because we have, sense, but if they want to go over and see this for themselves, I mean, it's the oldest conflict in the world. It's the most historic soil in the history of mankind. Could they DM you and just say, "Hey, would you mind pointing folks that are interested in the direction of where I don't even know how you go on something like this, but my assumption is you can point them in the right direction if they want to apply or talk to someone."
Yeah, I would love that. It's just at Jim Gwinner on Twitter, which is now X, or just send me a DM, whatever it's called this week. I think Twitter's had more names in the last year than the Secretary of State has candidates.
And we should know,
reach out.
Jim is Kelton's favorite Missouri Politico. I don't even think is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I've always
I appreciate it. I appreciate
you're the home team to Kelton. That is Kelton's man. Jim, I appreciate the time and the visit. Now we have to have you come back in August and do the same thing, and we'll pick apart the ones you were right and wrong on.
I would love to. Maybe I'll be back to Israel before then, and just keep a Gomberger.
Well, don't go over there and get shot. If your predictions are wrong, I'm gonna want to break your balls. Don't go over there and get blown up.
I spent 9 years in the Army and the reserves. Most of it was during the Clinton era, and I like to say the only shots that ever came my way were at the officers club. Trust me, I know where not to be.
I love it. Jim, thank you so much. I love your Dan Green sign. I'm going to have to screenshot this and send to him. Love that Dan Green sign in the background.
Good. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, buddy. That was Jim Gwinner, Missouri Politico. More importantly, Kelton's top guy. I didn't even have to ask him. He knows. If you want to go to the place when you come to Jeff City, you stay at you go over, and when you come to this town, there is only one place. It's the Courtyard by Marriott. And United Fiber, thank you so much, y'all, for letting us be here, talking to folks like Jim. We're hitting the road. You're going to get a video from me Thursday to kick off the F-150 campaign tour. Thursday's tomorrow, Kelton. Holy crap.
It is.
Man, time has been flying. Then I'm going to go down there, and I want to see for myself to make sure Joelle goes through with this. I'm not saying she's not. I'm just saying, I mean, obviously I've been to a lot of weddings, more with Casey now, and I've never, I think, I just want to make sure I'll try to help my buddy out. I'll try to stand by the back door and keep it blocked. I want to see what happens with that on Friday night. We're going to celebrate two terrific people. It is a wonderful love story. It is wonderful to watch. It is two people that they are happier together, and I'm happy for them. The guy that won the week, no doubt, is Elijah Haar. We're going to say Joel won the week too, but definitely Elijah won the week with this. And we will see you. I'll have a video Thursday. And then we're going to come back next week and do Kelton, can we do maybe, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this?
I'll be free those days.
And we're going to bring you Boone County. This week in Missouri politics, Boone County, Kurt Schaefer, Stephen Weber, Boone County Delight.